The first one, plants that itch. Poison oak and poison ivy look very similar. This is your poison ivy down here and poison oak over here. And notice how they have three leaves. They all come out, and three leaves is they all come out of this central portion. So if you see all three leaves attached to this one little stem, and they're always on the ground. They're not very tall normally. I've very rarely have seen them taller than like 2 feet. Sometimes they claim that they're in a bush. I've never seen a bush. They're always these little guys. Um, and a lot of people are mildly allergic to it. So you just get a skin rash and you brush up against it. However, if rope or any type of clothing brushes up against it and that liquid gets on your equipment or any type of belonging you have, it can rub off on you and give you that as well. And even if they look dead, it doesn't mean that this liquid still may not be there. They also have these hairy vines that a lot of times go up a tree. Leave those hairy vines alone. I found out the hard way one time. I was like, oh, I'll just remove these vines off of this tree. And it ended up being poison ivy. And I had poison ivy covering a large amount of my body. There are some people that are not allergic to to this toxin, but most have some kind of allergic reaction. I do even know some people that are heavily allergic to it, and if they look at it, they have to go to the hospital. There is another one called the Virginia creeper. It's this guy up here. And notice how there are 5 different leaves coming off of that stem. Um, this guy is actually as well and can be an irritant. However, I've touched it before and I wasn't irritated, but my skin's a little tougher than most. But it has 5 leaves instead of 3. And this guy you will find going up the side of a tree. So he is around. And notice how it says cashew family. Cashews, before they're cooked and others and prepared for eating, do carry that same toxin. And it's just amazing that we are able to eat it after it's cooked. And they're pretty good too. Um, so, but yeah, this is the most likely culprit outdoors. If you go and take a poop in the woods, watch where you're squatting. That goes along with snakes as well. I mean, just watch where you go. It does happen. I've gone many times in the woods. It's not gross. Just watch where you squat. And if you have a pet, just make sure that it doesn't get on you as well. Um, but yes, this is what it normally does. It gives you blisters, and this is a more severe reaction, is the blistering like this. And this is a really severe reaction. This is, if you get to this point, this is when you take Benadryl. The Benadryl doesn't react and you keep swelling and whatever, get to the hospital immediately. This is when you need an EpiPen um, and to have a doctor look at it. And it also will help you remind you that this is not a good thing. And you can spread these. Some literature out there says that you can't spread it. I beg to differ. I've scratched these a number of times and scratched somewhere else, and that somewhere else develops into a blister. So try not to itch it. Get calamine lotion or something else to control the itch. It does itch and it itches like crazy. It will make you go crazy. Um, and it's but that's pretty much what it does. It can cause other issues like down here with this woman, so just be aware. But yes, long sleeve shirt, and this is how you treat it, with rubbing alcohol. And if you can get that liquid off of you, like if you know that you touched the poison ivy plant and you can get to a sink or find some way of washing that liquid off of you, and usually you can't tell. I mean, it can be a small little brush up against the poison ivy and you'll have it. But if you can get to a sink within minutes, you a lot of times won't have a reaction. It takes a little bit for your body to react to the poison being put on it. This is poison sumac. It has a tendency to be taller. This is a somewhat picture of it, but you can see that the red stems. And I don't know if that will stay on. It may have just brown or gray stems. Just be aware. It's a woody shrub growing 5 to 20 feet tall. We have several different versions of sumac. Poison sumac is not as common. And this one inhabits swamps, wet areas, pine woods, and shady hardwood forests. And it's more people are allergic to it than poison ivy and poison oak. And usually if it's along a trail or whatever, there are trail crews that will go and remove it if they know that it's there. So that's poison sumac, and that's another one that is in the woods that can be, if you rub up against it, it will have the same effect. Chinyberry, I have not really seen this in the woods. Does not mean that it's not there. We have hundreds of species of trees in our forest, and the differences are leaf structure and margins and berries and fruits and all that good stuff. But this guy, non-native, came from China and the Himalayas, and brought most plants that you see that are not supposed to be here were brought as an ornamental or a way of controlling something, or they were brought as a as part of an aquarium. But this guy is a round deciduous tree, and it has fragrant flowers, and is common throughout Florida. The seeds, as you see here, if you see any type of berries or seeds, do not eat them, especially red berries. If they're white or red or black, do not eat it. Black, if it's an aggregate, we do have shrubs that have like an aggregate berry, and that would be your blackberry. We also have a blueberry, which is that single. So if you know what you're looking for with a blackberry, these guys don't have thorns, whereas blackberries do. But you can see that the fruits and the seeds are poisonous to humans. So just don't mention, or just don't eat them. Coral bean, I have seen this recently. It comes out during the spring, but has these red tubular flowers that grow on stalks. Doesn't grow very tall, like 1.5 to 2 feet tall. However, the red in the flower family is a major attractant for pollinators, and if it's a tubular shape like this, it means that it attracts hummingbirds. So this is a very good plant to have. You just leave it alone, and you don't eat the seeds that are in the pea pods. They're very poisonous, but it's a natural landscape plant that is supposed to be here, and it grows in a wide range of soil, but best in fertile, well-drained, sandy soil. And well-drained means that the water doesn't just stay in one spot. If it stays in one spot, like a marsh or swamp, or if it's like a low area and it's has a lot of water, then it's not going to be around. This is a guy that isn't found in the woods, but is found at your local Lowe's and hardware stores. Dieffenbachia, popular since the Victorian age, attractive tropical indoor plant. Many people have them. It's also called dumb cane, and it's because of the sap, which causes swelling of the mouth if the leaves or stems are chewed, and it leaves you unable to speak. And it's called dumb. It's pretty dumb if you actually eat this. However, if a child doesn't know any better, he may eat this, or if you have a puppy that is defiant, and he may nibble on this as well. And it can cause obviously oral irritation, so mouth irritation, excessive drooling, localized swelling in plants. This actually is kind of similar to rabies, because rabies causes drooling as well and causes numbing. But this is a plant version. So This is something you can live with. Rabies would potentially kill you if you got it, but that's another story all in itself. Lantana, I have seen this. We have several varieties of it, and it is all over the place. It has a tendency to have all these different flowers all over it. I've seen it come in a variety of colors from yellow to orange to red. I think I've even seen purple, but it does have all these different colors in it. It's a very popular landscaping plant, and because of the red and the orange, it will attract a lot of pollinators to it. But it's very attractive because it's heat, salt, and drought tolerant. And a lot of people love the showy red flowers, and they're easy to grow, very low maintenance. And as I said, their bees and butterflies flock to them, but it will quickly invade and take over a site. It is toxic to livestock. The leaves are highly toxic to animals. Unripened berries are also poisonous. So this is the guy where if you eat it, it can cause issues. If you're just looking at it and admiring it, then you're fine. But just know that it will take over an area. Milkweed, we have a couple of different versions of, we have a butterfly milkweed, which is this orange one. Then this is the monarch milkweed one, where monarchs will eat this. And it is toxic, and that's why they eat it. They get these toxins and they're immune to the toxin that's in the leaves, so they can ward off other creatures that are trying to eat it. And that's why they on purposely eat them. But they have these white flowers, and this guy has a tendency to be on shorelines or very close to water. And they get their name from the milky sap that they exude. It's a white milky sap, and it irritates the skin and is toxic to consume in big quantities. So don't eat it. Obviously, it's an important source of nectar. Any flower is pretty much a source of nectar for bees and insects. That's just what they do, and that's how they help pollinate from one flower to the next. Mistletoe. This guy is up in trees. They are parasites. They potentially can kill a tree. What they do is they attach to the growing part of the tree in order to steal water and nutrients from the host tree. And because of stealing this, they can clog up those arteries that flow throughout the tree and make it so the tree doesn't live. It is very popular at Christmas time, and there's a lot of folklore surrounding it. But you can see it is a source for the great purple hair streak caterpillar, which is actually a pretty cool blackish blue looking butterfly when it appears. And it can obviously weaken and destroy trees because the tree is trying to fend off a parasitic infection. And parasite obviously has bad connotations. It will basically sap the host of all its nutrients and whatever, and leave it in a bad way. There's other forms of getting along with others, like mutualism and commensalism, and things that you may learn in school. Mutualism is basically you have shared things, like mushrooms is a good one, where it's a mutual thing where the mushrooms can break down different nutrients and give it to the host, and the tree helps provide the nutrients and water that the mushroom is missing, and it's a great mutualistic thing. And fungi are able to break down poop and other things in your environment, and is very handy to have around. This guy is poisonous if eaten. Oleander, it can escape and be in the woods, but usually these are in landscaped yards. They're well loved, fast growing, beautiful flowers. The flowers attract your pollinators, and it can be in a broad range of soils. This is obviously a non-native and exotic species. And one thing about native and exotic, or non-native and invasive, that I want to point out, is we sell these plants. A lot of like Fish and Wildlife Service and other groups go after these guys in the woods, and we claim that we're stopping the stem. In my opinion, we should not be selling these plants that are highly invasive and not supposed to be here and put them in our landscapes, because they will escape, they will get out, because we have wind that can carry their seeds, and we also have birds and butterflies and other things that can take the seeds and other parts of the plant and deliver them all over the place. So I would highly advise to not have anything non-native in your yard. I know they're pretty, and I know that they can take our climate and all that. It's not worth it. We have a huge problem in our woods with a whole lot of invasive exotic plants, and we can't control them, and they're basically excluding all of our native varieties of plants. But all parts of this plant are toxic. And also poison ivy, I didn't mention this, along with oleander, you cannot burn it. If you burn it, it gets in the smoke, and if it gets inhaled, it will cause all sorts of problems inside of you. And you have to immediately seek a doctor if that's the case, if you burn poison ivy. I don't know what it smells like, but I'm sure it's not good. So just be aware to not put this in the fire. And it says respiratory difficulties. So yeah, you're going to need to go to the doctor. Red buckeye. I don't see buckeyes very much in the woods. They're a small deciduous tree with tubular red flowers like you see here that attract hummingbirds that we learned about earlier. Red attracts hummingbirds. They're best in partial sun, so they're not going to grow in a field. You're going to find them in a forest where there's an opening or on the edge of a forest. Thrives in a number of different soils, and the seed pods are the dangerous part to humans. And creeping indigo, it's been around in Florida for 90 years. So in other words, it didn't start out here, but it creeps all over the ground. It's what's called a prostrate plant, which means it just grows along the ground. And it's in heavily trafficked areas such as grass parking lots and pastures, and you may have an abundance of this weed. And it's very shallow and submerged crown, so the roots and everything about it are not very deep. They tend to grow over the very top of things. It's a legume, which actually is a good thing because it can fix nitrogen in the ground. And it's an important part of the cycles of our earth. It has fixing nodules in its roots that will help to make nitrogen and to fix it into other forms that other creatures and plants can use. This was used as a dye. It had deep blue shades and variety of textiles, and was a valuable commodity back in the day, and hauled out by pack animals to distant locations for barter in ancient markets. So yeah, that deep blue shade was a highly valued commodity back in the day. But it's highly toxic to livestock. If you have it in your fields and you see a plant growing across the top and is growing all over the place, make sure that you're IDing it and make sure it's not this guy. If it is, rip it out of the ground. This is from the Florida Poison Control, and these are a wide variety of plants, and these are the medical problems associated with it. All these plants over here, which we already saw one of them, Dieffenbachia, but the leaves and stems all contain oxalate crystals that cause immediate pain when chewed. Burning and irritation of the lips, mouth, and throat can occur. And if they're swallowed, vomiting can occur. But you have your arrowhead, which is this guy. There are many different plants that are called arrowhead, so that's one of them. This is called a caladium. It has that distinct red center and the green fringe. This is your philodendron, which is a highly valued ornamental plant that I've seen. These leaves are huge, or not huge, but they're pretty big. So think of the size of an umbrella. This is your peace lily, and this is the foxglove. But all these have the oxalate crystals in them and can be bad. The castor bean, rosary pea, and rosary bean are all very bad. Can cause bloody vomiting, diarrhea, abdominal pain, drowsiness, and death from liver and kidney damage. So don't eat them. This right here is your rosary pea. This is your rosary bean, and this is your castor. It has these big, almost palmate, pointy leaves, and then it has these pokey red seed pods on it. This I have not, most of these I have not seen in our woods, but I had, but they could be here. If you go down to like Lakeland, Florida, they do have this plant. But just note that plants grow in different places. Like some of them grow in dry places, some of them grow in wet, some of them grow in sandy soil, some of them grow in loam and dirt and all the other different versions of soil. So plants grow in different, so you just have to know where these grow. If you find a plant that looks similar and the habitat doesn't look right, then it's not the right plant. And the warning about the red, don't eat red berries. The glory lily, the gloriosa lily, and autumn crocus. If you eat the flower or the bulb, this is the flower portion, and the bulb is basically what the flower turns into. So the bulb would be like it coming out and then it opens up. That's the bulb. Can cause vomiting and diarrhea and abdominal pain and chest pain. And death can occur from the damage to the heart, kidneys, liver, and lungs. This is the glory or gloriosa lily. I think they're maybe one and the same. I may be wrong, but that's the glory or gloriosa lily. And then this is the autumn crocus that a lot of people have planted in their yards. I have heard of it. Just don't eat it. You may have a very bad day. Well, obviously a very bad day, and then it'll damage your inside organs. Common lantana, we already talked about it. They can cause enlarged pupils, blurry vision, vomiting, weakness, dizziness, flushed skin, shallow breathing. Common crotons, which is this guy, the milky sap, can cause irritation, nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. The American holly, which is this one, the leaves and the berries can cause drowsiness, vomiting, and dehydration. I'm noticing a theme with the nausea, vomiting, and dehydration and all that. Just don't eat the leaves or the berries. Don't eat anything that you can't 100% identify. And then the poinsettia I've known for quite a while. Mildly toxic, eating one leaf may cause mild irritation in the mouth. And leaves whole will cause vomiting. They are highly toxic to dogs. Do not have them around dogs, especially a mischievous dog. It will potentially kill the dog. So don't have them. Another warning is to not have azalea in your yard. Azaleas are very, very bad for dogs, and same with oleander. They're all, there's a long list of plants that shouldn't be in your yard that a pet could get to. So just be advised and take a look if you have a pet and you have a backyard where you like to let them out at. These are your trumpets and your Jimson weed. And basically if you eat the leaves or seeds, it can cause dry mouth, muscle weakness, and high blood pressure, fast pulse, difficult urination, confusion, flushed skin, fever, enlarged pupils, blurred vision, and constipation may occur. Doesn't sound like a fun time. Avoid it. Angel's trumpet is this yellow one right here. The devil's trumpet is a pretty cool looking trumpet. And these, my guess is if they get pollinated, it would be by a hummingbird. However, because of them hanging over like that, it would be a little bit hard for a hummingbird to get up in there. But then you have the Jimson weed, which is fairly common around here. I have seen it in yards and other places, so it is here. Poison ivy, we already heard. Brazilian pepper is not really in our area. I saw it mainly when I was in Lakeland, Florida, down in Central Florida, Central South Florida. It has these very distinct leaves. If you notice the leaves, the venation on the leaves is very distinct and sticks out. And then it has these red berries. These were around wet areas and especially around phosphate pits or ponds. Touching leaves and the oil can cause itchy rash, blisters, inhaling smoke from burning plants or plants in bloom can cause wheezing or breathing difficulty. So don't burn this guy. Wild mushrooms. There's a wide variety of mushrooms out there. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. They are very hard to distinguish between one and another. You need a professional to go out with you or someone that knows what they're doing. They can cause all kinds of different problems like you see listed here, from thirst to headache to failure of internal organs to hallucinations and death. This guy right here can cause death. So this guy is pretty common in yards. I would never eat a fungi if I were you, or a wild mushroom. They're very good. I'm not saying to get rid of them, but if you're in an area where your pet or your child's going to get to them, yes, remove them, because they may be tempted to have a little nibble on them. So, and then you may not find them moving later, which is not a good thing. Stinging nettle. This is a it stings because it has these hair-like projections. You can kind of see it on this. And these nettles, these hair-like protrusions off of the stem have toxin in them, and basically can cause itchiness. It doesn't feel very well. It feels like someone sticked you, and it'll make your skin itch and feel different sensations along your arm, which are very weird and odd. They are definitely around water, humus-rich soils and floodplains, rich water disturbed areas, common around farmyards. Flowers minute and greenish. You can see on here that they are greenish. It's also called a weak nettle or tigula or heartleaf nettle. But yeah, these guys are around. Pokeweed, I have seen this in various spots. The dead giveaway is the red stem. If you see this guy along the roads, do not eat them. They have blackberries. Do not eat the blackberries. They're found along the forest edge. So between the forest and like a field or a roadway, that's where you'll find them. Under power lines, pastures, old fields. Entire plant is poisonous. Do not eat leaves, do not eat flowers, do not eat the berries. And the berries and the fruits are very important to mockingbirds, northern cardinals, and mourning doves. And I'm sure other things eat them as well. Berries have a tendency to be eaten by a wide variety of critters that have adapted to handle the toxins that are inside of them. And what's nice is this is a way of the plant moving from one place to another via being eaten, and then the animal poops it somewhere else. So it's a good way to move from one place to another, especially when you're rooted in the ground. Think about it. I mean, if you were attached to one spot, you would try to figure out any way you can to get a part of you somewhere else. Like I'm doing here. I'm trying to get part of me to you and to tell you about and warn you about these different things. Wisteria. This is a vine that grows all over creation. I've seen it along fences. I've seen it going up trees, and they can be highly aggressive and displace lots of native species. They can choke it out. They came from Japan and China in the 1800s as an ornamental. As you see, it's a very beautiful purple flower. It's a legume, which means it's also a nitrogen fixer, grows in poor soils, um, and attracts pollinators and is palatable. That means it can be eaten by deer. But it has toxic resin in all parts of the plant, can cause nausea, vomiting, stomach pain, and diarrhea. So those are your plants. So obviously, you don't want to consume plants when you're outside, or don't consume the berries when you're outside. There are very few plants that are out there that will make you itch. However, poison ivy tends to be everywhere. Poison ivy is one of those where it doesn't discriminate. It is all over the place. And it's one of those that you really can't get rid of. I've tried to in the past in places I've worked, and you get rid of it for a very short term and then it comes back. But it does have berries on it, so they're good for deer and other things to eat them. Everything has a purpose, and these plants are no exception. The problem is we have put them in areas where they're not supposed to be. We have allowed them to propagate and move into areas where their original habitat was not. So we're just reaping what we sow from the 1900s and early European explorers. So those are just some of the plants that you'll find around. It's the ones that I have tracked down for you, and hopefully enjoy the presentation. Sorry if it was long-winded. There's no way I can shorten this one. Thank you for joining me, and I look forward to joining you down the road with another talk. And have a great day, and ignore this part. This is where I used to work and I forgot to change it. So have a good day. Bye for now.